Hello, and a very warm welcome to members of our WildFly open source community. Welcome to today's WildFly mini conference, March 2025. My name's Tom Jenkinson, and it's my pleasure and honour to welcome you in for what I hope will be another great event today, and hopefully something that you'll all enjoy and get a lot of value out of for your work on the WildFly project, or if you're a user or a developer looking or just interested in a project, whether you've used WildFly for many years, whether you've been involved with the project just recently, or whether it's something you're investigating getting involved in. Welcome to everyone. We're really pleased that you're able to join us today, and it's great to welcome you in. We're going to be getting started on the first presentation of the day very shortly, but before I start, as usual, I've got a few slides just to help people make the most of their time on the stream with us today, and a few pointers to help you like today, and if you want to follow up on some of the topics that are discussed today, help you come back to the topics later. So before I get on to how you might interact with us today, I'll just share a little bit of a breakdown on what's going to be what you can expect from today's sessions. We got a couple of breaks loaded in here as well, just as you can see on the screen right now. We've got the agenda for the day basically. So our first session, which will be with Jeff Manil, we're going to be looking at some prototyping work. We're going to be, Jeff's going to be talking about using a tool called JBang to, which helps people with creating, editing, and running source-only Java programs. And he's going to be using it to prototype a simple WildFly application from a single Java source file. After that, we've got a break for roughly a quarter of an hour. And when we come back from the break, Romain Police will be joining us and sharing a little bit of information on how to use Ansible in particular, with a view of looking at the clustering capabilities, which is potentially a difficult or rather more complex part of configuration to look into. But he'll be using Ansible to set up a cluster of WildFly and dynamically change the running configuration. So that should be really helpful, hopefully, to people that are using our clustering technologies. After that, at 20 to 4 on the UTC plus 0 time zone, Scott Marlowe will be coming on line and onto the stream and sharing with us some knowledge from his experience as the project lead of the Jakarta EE TCK project, and he'll be giving a quick introduction to those Jakarta EE TCK projects. Then we have another break, and after the break, we'll welcome Brian Stansbury, who's the WildFly project lead, to join us and share with us some of the an update on the WildFly project's plans to move to a vendor-neutral foundation, and he'll be covering rationale for such a move and our current plans around that. And then our last session of the day will be with Emmanuel Huguenet and Jean-Francois Denis, and they will be bringing an AI flavor to the last session, showing how to expose a Jakarta EE application as an MCP server, and sharing with us information about that. So we've got a very packed agenda today, and I hope that you'll find a lot of interesting stuff within that for yourself. So how to ask a question. So basically there's around a few seconds of latency between when I'm speaking and when you're hearing. So So the broadcast of the stream's a little bit delayed, not a lot delayed, but a few seconds. So just be aware of that when you're commenting in places. But if you do have a question, there'll be Zulip threads links shared in the YouTube chat, so you can connect from the YouTube chat to Zulip and ask your questions there. But I'll be trying to watch for questions in both YouTube chat and on the Zulip threads. So whichever one works best for you, please go ahead and ask your questions there. But if something comes to you after the talk's finished, then it's probably best going to be to use the Zulip threads that are available, and you should be able to find those on our WildFly conference page as well. And it's important, we're very grateful to you for joining us today, and it's important for us to hear what you think to what we present to you. So here at the end of each session, you'll find a QR code that can help you provide feedback on each of the sessions, and we also have another feedback form for the entire event. So yeah, we're looking for as much feedback as we can get, and we're very grateful for it and grateful for the feedback that we've received before. Please let us know how we can best share information with you, so we can continue to do these events and hopefully make them more and more tailored to what our community wants to hear. Where can you find more information on the WildFly project? Well, of course, our website is a great resource for people, so definitely would recommend people to become familiar with wildfly.org. But we're also active on various social media channels as well. Here you can find a link to our links to Fostodon, to x.com, and to LinkedIn. But yeah, please connect with us. Okay, so at this point then, I'd like to welcome onto the stream our first presenter. Jeff, are you there?
Hi, Tom. How are you?
Hi. Okay, so Jeff, I'm just going to go and reconfigure my screen so that we can see you, and I'll let you know when it looks good. Have you got, I don't know if you're already sharing, but if you're not sharing, it'd be good to have your deck.
Yeah, I'm sharing it
Cool.
Now.
Great, thank you. And I will pin you to the screen. I'll unpin myself. And I will just line up the window so it works well. Okay. Just get that on there. See if I can just get that. Okay, I think that's as good as we're gonna see it. So yeah, we've got you, and yeah, so Jeff, welcome, and I think if you're ready to go, we can hand over to you.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
So today's presentation is to show you how you can very simply prototype WildFly application using a tool that is called JBank. So let me start. So about myself, my name is Jeff Menil. I'm an engineer that has been working for many years on WildFly at Red Hat. I've been working on different things, and these days I'm mostly focusing on the cloud enablement of WildFly and the user experience. So today I wanted to introduce you to JBank that allows you to run very simple Java source file code, and how you can use that tool to quickly prototype with WildFly. I will also discuss a bit WildFly Glow, that is the secret sauce that makes everything working together. And if time permits, we will write an AI chatbot as an example of how you can do a bit more complex prototyping with that tool. And if we have time, we will do some Q&A at the end. So JBang is a tool that lets students, educators, and professional developers like ourselves create and edit self-contained source-only Java programs. So the idea is that if you want to learn something new with Java, you can very simply, just from a single .java file, being able to run it in a very streamlined manner. So the good thing with JBang is that you just need to install it, and it can be as simple as doing a curl. You don't even need to install Java. If Java is not present in your environment, JBang will download it for you. So you just need to do a curl to set up JBang, and then you can use it. So how does that work? For example, let's say that we want to write a very simple Java application. So it's a regular Java file. So we have a class, we have a public static void main. And what we want is to get a string and represent that as some kind of ASCII text. So for that, we are using the Figlet font packages to do that. So how do we take that simple file and make it run it with JBang? The first thing, it's more a convention, but it's a good one, is that you add at the beginning of your Java file headbang comments that says that you can run this file, this Java file with JBang. And what JBang provides you is a way to get the libraries you need to run your program. So for example, if I wanted to run that program with Java C and Java, I would need to find the libraries that provide the packages I need and put that into my class path and making sure I can run that. What JBang is streamline that so that you can specify everything directly into your Java file. So for example, if I'm using this Figlet font class, I just need to add a depth comment and specify which is the libraries, which is the dependencies that provide that functionality. So it's a Maven coordinates, and I just need to specify that, and JBang will download it and making sure that I can run my code. So let's just do that. So, oops, let me copy my code. So I'm using VS Code to do that. JBang provides integration with several IDE, but otherwise you can directly run it from the command line. So I'm just adding my code. And as you can see, I have some integration with my IDE so that it's directly integrated. So I can just run JBang. It will compile my code and it will run it. So behind the scene, what he has done is it has pulled the artifacts from Maven to make sure that it can compile and run my code. The neat thing is that I can even make my file executable. And I can run it directly. So it's a Java file, but it's also an executable with JBang. And if, for example, I want to change the world, by default, it's hello world. But if I say Bob, it will write hello Bob. So it's a very simple way, to be able to start with Java programs without to set up a full Maven project. Let me go back to my presentation. So this is just a repeat. When you are running JBang from the CLI, you do JBang run and your Java file. It will build the program for you and run it. And if you do that again, it's already be built, so you can use it. A nice thing with JBang is that you can run a local Java file, but if you specify also a URL, you can run a remote Java file. So for example, the code that I showed you, I put that into a gist on GitHub, and I can directly run it from JBang. I mentioned that because in the examples I have later on, I've added the URLs to gist, so you can directly run everything without having to type anything. There's more about JBang, so it was a very short introduction about that. It has good documentation, and it provides supports for popular IDs. But we are here, to talk about WildFly. So you know about WildFly. It's an application server that helps you write enterprise Java application that can really perform well. Sorry. So, for example, let's say that we want to write a web application that does the same thing. We want to display some ASCII text, but this time, instead to take in my arguments from the command line, I want to have a web application that does that. So what do I need to do that? I need to change my code, my Java file, so that now it's taking as an entry point, it's using the Jakarta REST API, so that when I call my web application, I specify a query parameter name, and it will display that. It's a regular Jakarta REST API, so I need to wrap that into an application path, so at the root of my web deployment, and specify that my URL endpoint will be at /hello. I'm using additional annotation and interfaces, so I need to import them. And then I need to tell JBang, where can you find the libraries that provide all this API? To do that, you can leverage the WildFly bombs that provides all the APIs that you can use to run your application with WildFly. So I have a dependencies that say use the bomb for the latest version of WildFly 35.01 final. And I have the @pom to specify that this is not a direct dependencies. I need to compile my code, but it provides the dependencies. And then for the rest of the dependencies I need for my code, I don't need to specify the version. They will be taken from our bomb. So I've added the dependencies to the version of the WildFly bomb, and unversioned dependencies for Jakarta REST API and for CDI. I also need to add dependencies to WildFly Glow. WildFly Glow is the magic that will take this Java file and let JBang understand that it needs to be running with WildFly. So let's demo that. So I will take the code of my application, and I will put that into my file. So it's the same name. So as you can see, it's synchronized with JBang. So that means that I can directly see, interact with the IDE, have full completion for that. By default, sometimes it does not properly display. There are some errors, but they will disappear. But I can directly run that. So I just run JBang. And what it does is that it will compile this Java application. It will use Glow to provision WildFly. That means it will download all you need to create a WildFly server instance that contains everything you need to run WildFly. It will deploy your application as a web deployment, and it's already up and running. So let's create another terminal, and let's do a curl. So my server is running at localhost 8080. The name of my web application is the name of my file, and it was on the hello endpoint. Okay, so it's working. And if I want, for example, to specify another name, I can use HTTP query parameter and say Alice. And it says, hello, Alice. So just like that, you have been able to write in a very few lines a web application running on WildFly. And just to be clear, I've not downloaded WildFly before that. The downloading, the provisioning, and the configuration of WildFly is done directly from your Java file. So let me go back to my presentation. So something has been done behind the scene by my IDE integration, but if you were doing that directly with the JBang CLI, you would see that it has resolved the Jakarta REST API and the CDI version based on the WildFly bar. And it has deployed my application as a WAR, and it's running the latest version of WildFly. This is just what I've showed you. Now, let's say, for example, I want to customize my application and use micro-profile config to inject the word to greet the user. So instead of hello, I want to specify the word in another language. For that, I can use micro-profile config property to do that. So now I can use a system property or an environment variable to change the configuration of my application at runtime. again, it's a regular Java file, so I need to import the new annotations that I'm using. And I need to specify that as a dependencies, I also want to use the microprofile config API. I don't need to version that. It will take the versions that is provided by the latest version of WildFly. So again, let me just demo that. So I will copy the code. I will paste it in my ID. So now I have, oops, sorry, I did not use the right one. Oh, that one. Okay. So now I have a config property that I can use to customize. So now it's no longer using hello. It will be used whatever is my config property. It's still hello. So if I'm, for example, running, let me start my server. If I run that application, so again, it's downloading WildFly, and it has detected that now my application is using microprofile config. So it will make sure that it will create a WildFly server with all the capabilities I need for microprofile config. So it's running. So if I go back to my terminal and I do again the same query, oh, it's still saying hello because I have not configured the runtime. So let's do that. So I will stop the server. And now I will start it with a hello environment variable, so that I want to say bonjour instead of hello. I can type correctly. Okay, and my application. It's not recompiling anything because my file has not changed. And now if I go to my URL, now it's saying hello, bonjour. So sorry, it's a bit mingled. Okay, bonjour Alice. So you can see just by, in your code, by using whatever API you want from Jakarta EE or from microprofile, you just need to make sure that you add the right dependencies for that, and you can use that to create your WildFly applications. So if you do that from the command line, you will see that the dependencies that you have been resolved from the WildFly BOM. And that this time, since our application was using microprofile config, we make sure that the WildFly server is properly provisioned and its one microprofile config subsystem is activated. So the secret sauce that makes it very simple to go from a Java source file to a WildFly application is provided by WildFly Glow. It's out of scope of this quick presentation to discuss WildFly Glow. We have good documentation, and in previous mini conference, we had some talks about WildFly Glow. But when you are using JBound to do prototyping, there's really just a few things you need to know about WildFly Glow. We have some special supports for commands that start with //glow that provides to customize the WildFly server that will be running your application. So for example, if you specify -- server version, you can specify which version of WildFly you want to run. By default, it will run the latest version of WildFly, but you can stick to another version if you want. Glow is also looking at your code to understand what needs to be present in WildFly to run your application. So if you are using the Jakarta REST API, it will make sure that it installs a subsystem for that. The same for microprofile config. But there are some capabilities that are not tied to your code. For example, if you want to have healthiness probes or metrics or OpenAPI, they're not part of your code. So you need to add some hints to Glow to let him know that it needs to add additional capabilities. And you can do that with using add-ons. So for example, if I add these commands, I will make sure that my application has also health, metrics, and OpenAPI endpoints. By default, Glow will only provision things that we considered at the community stability level, but we are doing more around that. So for example, we have a WildFly AI feature pack that provides a Langchain4j integration. It's very experimental because Langchain4j is evolving rapidly. So you need to let Glow know that you should also look at its incubating spaces to have additional experiment capabilities, and I will show that later. So for example, let's say that we want to add the metrics and the health and the OpenAPI endpoints to your application. all you need to do is to add this command to your code. So let's do that. So I will add the add-ons. I want to install health metrics and OpenAPI on my application. Oops, where is my, and I will run it. So I will run again my server. Some change have been detected. Glow will say that now it needs to provision a WildFly server with additional capabilities. So it's creating a new WildFly integration, and then it's deploying your application on top of that. So if I go to my curl endpoint, it's still working, right? And now I can see that I'm also able to go to the OpenAPI endpoint. And I can see that I have servers running, and that I have a /hello endpoint that takes a name parameters that by default is world. I can also look at the metrics endpoint. So it's on the management port, so metrics, for example. And I have all the metrics about my server, including JVMs, metrics about memories, usage, and things like that. And I can also see if my server is up and running. And yes, I have a bunch of probes, so everything is up and running. So that was a very simple example to prototype. So the idea is I want to try a new Jakarta EE API or a new microprofile config API, and I want to get it up and running in a very simple way without setting up a full Maven project with all the dependencies and things like that. So let's say that I have an assignment. I need to prototype an AI chatbot. I will be using a Olama chat model for that, and I will be using the LangChain4j to write the Java code. WildFly provides an AI feature pack that integrates WildFly with LangChain4j so that you can use that in your code. So what would you do to do that? First, we are using LangChain4j. So in our web application, we will be using a chat model. And for example, I will ask the model and say that you are a teacher that explains to kids the origin of the world. Be friendly with your answer, be polite, and embed your answer in HTML so it's nicely displayed. And the question that I ask it is, what is the etymology of a given word that I will be passing with a HTTP query parameter? I'm using Olama, so I will inject a chat language model based on Olama. I need to import the LangChain4j dependencies that will be provided by the WildFly AI feature pack. Since I'm using a new API, I need to add dependencies to the libraries that provide that. So again, I'm using a POM to do that, and then I'm using the LangChain4j library to get access to that. By default, the WildFly AI feature pack is not considered stable, so I need to ask Glow to look into its incubating space to make sure that it can provision the AI feature pack. For this chatbot, I need to integrate with Olama chat model. So to do that, I will just use Podman to run Olama and making sure that I'm pulling the Llama 3.2 model. So let's do that. So let's go back, create a new terminal. And I will just copy paste the link to run Olama. So Podman run. It's pretty fast because I do that before the presentation. I'm putting the manifest. Okay, so it's running now. So now I want to run my application. And what I need is, by default, the Olama integration is using a different model. So I need to use an environment variable to specify I want to use the Llama 3.2 model. So let's do that. Before that, let's make my, oh, sorry. If I don't create the file, I won't be able to do that. So I will create a my AI app.java. Let me paste the code, and I will show that. So 40 line of code to be able to use OLAMA model with Longchain4j from a web application. So now I will make that code executable. And I will run it with OLAMA chat model name environment variables to use the model I've just pulled. So I'm running it. JBang will compile the code. JBang will look at the code and will create a WildFly server that contains everything you need to be able to run this web application, including integrating with Longchain4j and making sure that it has a chat model integration with OLAMA. Okay, so it's up and running now. So if I go, let me use the browser to look at that. So by default, it will ask what is the origin of the orange word. So it's a bit slow because of the model, but it's given me an answer, and it try as much as it's possible to display that with HTML. So let's use another word. For example, what is the origin of banana? It will reach out my HTTP endpoint, and it will ask that to the language model, and you can see that it's answering again. And it's trying to do that with a friendly message adapted to kids. Let's do that one more. So it will find another answer. Okay. So very simple way, to prototype how I can do a chatbot and integrate with AI from a WildFly application. Let me go back to my presentation. So this was a very simple presentation because the idea is to be able to prototype WildFly applications in no time. It does not replace, the creating a full-fledged Maven project with right dependencies, testing, and things like that. But when you want to try something, it really reduces the time you need to do before writing your code and being able to run it on WildFly. So I've just added a few links. WildFly Glow contains documentation that explains everything you need to run WildFly with JBang. So the dependencies you need to add, the WildFly Glow dependencies, that is the secret sauce to make that work. And I've added links to JBang if you want to learn more about the capabilities of the tool. And of course, everything you can do with WildFly. Let me check if we have some questions.
I haven't seen any, Jeff, actually.
Okay.
But I put the call out for them. There's some compliments in the YouTube chat, so that's nice. Thank you, everyone. Keep those coming. Yeah, there's no questions been asked, but yeah,
Okay.
it was super.
So, and I can stop now. Everything is available now, so you can directly use that. As I mentioned, the slides are present in our WildFly conference page. There's Gist that shows how you can do that, without having to type in everything. So it really helps. I hope it will help you bootstrap and prototype WildFly applications in a simple manner. So back to you, Tom.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jeff. Thank you. And that was really great. Thank you. I tried to share some links to the GIFs in the YouTube chat, so hopefully people are able to follow along there. I will unpin you from the. Okay, just try to make that a little bit bigger for people. I should probably pin myself. Oh no, I don't need to do that for now. Okay, so yeah, we're if you do have some feedback for about Jeff's session, please use the QR code that you can see on screen now. And I shared some links in the YouTube chat as well, and in the Zulip chat with links to where to provide feedback. And if you have any more questions, but if you have any questions for Jeff after that's your 5-minute warning, Jeff. If you have any questions for Jeff, just feel free to reach out on Zulip. But yeah, that's great. Thank you. So I think we're coming up to yeah, we've got the break now, so we're going to break until 5 to 3 in the UTC plus 0 time zone. So join us back here with Romain, and then after Romain, we've got Scott. So yeah, thank you, and see you back online soon.
So I'm going to use the chance to do a quick mic check. So hopefully you can hear me. Apparently Google is happy and hearing me. I hope I have a good sound. And in the meantime, I'm going to shut up and wait for my time. Did you spoke, Tom? Because I could not hear anything. I saw like the little blue thing move on your face, like telling me you talk, but I couldn't hear anything.
Hi. So I'm going to set up the screen now. Romain, would you like to share your
Oh, right,
screen? And I
can do
can.
that for once in a tiny manner. That should be the right one. Oh, spoiler, I have to go over there. Nope. That is less spoily.
So I'm just going to make it so we can see it better on the stream while we're waiting.
Oh, wait, let me switch to slide deck because
Yeah,
maybe
sure, go for it. Yeah.
that might play a part into making that readable. And let me switch to the next slide so you have a bit of a writing sample.
That's great, thank you.
Yeah, just remove my ugly face.
You don't want that on then? Okay, I will.
I mean, I don't mind seeing myself, but like the text of the slide matter more. So
okay, I can remove you then and
display a bit more.
Get a bit more text on the screen.
Yeah, perfect.
I'll just.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds pretty okay now, or look pretty okay actually.
It's I'm lining it up on OBS as well. That's the thing. So I think that's gonna be a good lineup. Okay, great. Well, welcome back everyone. Our next session of the day, as you can see, is WildFly Day One operations with Ansible Automation. That's going to be presented as to by Romain Police. So, Romain, if you're ready, you're welcome to take it away.
Yep. Yeah, I'm ready, so I'm going to start. So first of all, like everybody, I'm going to tell a few words about myself. I forgot to put my picture. Normally I put it in, but you can find it anywhere on the internet. So who am I? I'm Romain Police. I've been working in open source since forever, like for 20 years now. Basically, I'm like Asterix, or rather Obelix. I fell into open source the minute I start working in the industry. I did a lot of Java for a long time, and now I'm doing a lot of automation. My degree is an engineering degree in France, and I got that in 2004. And just because it's funny to remind people, I actually started working on learning IT on OpenVMS, which is only open by the name because it's actually a proprietary product. I did a bit of open source support on open source expertise on open source many things at Atos Origin, the open source center. At the time, the open source center had a partnership with JBoss. JBoss was not yet part of Red Hat at this time, and we did a lot of work on, of course, JBoss, a bit of Linux, a lot of free software or open source software. After that, I moved to Berlin and I joined a startup called Number 4 AG. The reason I'm mentioning that is that this is at Number 4 where I actually left a bit the JBoss ecosystem and did a lot of Puppet on cloud. And that's how I fell into automation, because at Number 4, I built everything using Puppet and everything was automated. We basically like had a procedure that restart and rebuild the entire product platform, online product platform every morning. So every morning, like everything was teared down and rebuilt from scratch. And I did that with Puppet, and Puppet was horrible. And this is why I'm very happy to talk about Ansible. After that, I joined Red Hat. For a while, I was a consultant and then an architect, mostly on middleware product, but I also did some middleware product and Java product. But I also did a lot of a few engagement on automation. I moved then to engineering, and for 5 years, I was a system developer on JBoss EAP, so I was fixing bugs on JBoss EAP. I moved from helping customer to run our product to helping customer fix our product. And after that, I spearheaded with a couple of coworkers, and especially Andrew Block, as Ansible for runtime initiative inside of Red Hat. And basically, this is an initiative to ensure that every Java solution from Red Hat, so of course, JBoss EAP, which is the product version of WildFly, are appropriately supported in Ansible. So just in case you were curious about that, I'm also a technical writer for GNU Linux Magazine France. I've been writing for them for 20 years. So if you read French on like GNU Linux Magazine, you might have a couple of articles from my pencil. And I'm also writing regularly on the Red Hat developer blog for almost 10 years now. That's basically it. Moving forward. So this talk is very much a follow-up on the previous talk. So the first thing I'm going to do, previous talk I did at the WildFly mini conferences, but don't worry if you have not seen those talks. If this is completely new to you, I am making a crash course as my slide is indicating. I'm going to give you take 5 minutes to give you all the basics so that the rest of the talk is not completely cryptic for you guys. So after recapping what we discussed in the WildFly mini conf previously, I'm going to do a crash course, and then I'm going to do a demo of Ansible Automation Platform. This demo will be centered on not really showing you the product. I mean, you're going to see it, obviously, but it's going to be centered on, okay, how do I tackle what we call day one operation with Ansible? So just in case if this idea of day one operation is not clear, I'm going to clarify it. It's very silly. We generally call day zero operation like, oh, I have an empty machine and I need to provision it, start it, and deploy my system, and now I have a running system. So most demo you can see about Ansible are going to show you like, oh, I have an empty box, I want to run, I don't know, Nginx, and boom, I'm using Ansible and my box now run Nginx. It's very cool, it's very interesting, it's already very helpful, but generally the real problem starts on what we call D1, which is, okay, now everything is set up, everything is running rather smoothly, and I have to change things in the system, or I have to deal with issue in production, and how do I how do I tackle that with Ansible and in a fully automated manner? And of course, at the end of this presentation, we'll have a few minutes for Q&A. Okay, so last time on the WildFly miniconf, during the first miniconf, we discussed, or I presented something around how to automate deployment of WildFly using Ansible. I also show and explain why Ansible is a very cool solution to deploy Java software, as counterintuitive as it may seem, because Ansible is Python-based. I also explain quickly the syntax of the Ansible playbook so that people can also know it's working, and I did a small demo with that. If you're interested, it's already online, you can rewatch it. During the second mini conference, I demonstrated how to use something called event-driven Ansible, which funnily enough is using rules under the hood. And I used that to show how you could remediate dynamically to issues on your infrastructure. So if for instance, WildFly was having an issue and needed a restart, you could have event-driven Ansible, EDA, kind of detect that and reduce the restart for you automatically. Okay, so today we're going to go one step further by looking at how Ansible Automation Platform, which is basically a web UI for Ansible, can manage all your WildFly for day one operation. Oh, this is weirdly so that no, all your day one operation for WildFly. Okay, I will trying to fix that later on. So it's a web UI, and this is why if you see my previous talk, I did everything in a terminal. My slide was even in a terminal. This time I have real slide or proper slide or slide with color, whatever you want to call that, because it's a web UI. So I'm going to do everything in my web browser, thus the web browser slides. Okay, perfect. I'm going to give myself 5 minutes, not more, to recap on what is Ansible. Hopefully, this will be interesting for everybody, even people who already attended my previous talk. So, basically, Ansible describes automation using a YAML file called a playbook. So, for instance, we have here a playbook called nginx.yaml, which is going to automate the setup and the maintenance of an nginx instance. So, the nice thing with Ansible is that I mean, maybe it's not a beauty for me, but I find it very readable. You don't need to be an expert in Ansible to understand what's happening here. The file has a name, okay, set up and maintain an instance, okay, fine. Host is basically the targets, like which machine should be targeted by this playbook. In this case, web servers, makes sense. We want to install Nginx. So we can imagine that a group called web server is designed to host Nginx. And then we have tasks. Tasks are the set of operation to be done in order to get the state you want to achieve on the target system. First operation is that if you run, and if you want to run Nginx, you have to have installed Nginx. So first thing you need to do is say, okay, please, Ansible, ensure that the Nginx software has been installed properly or is present on the target system. This is taken care of by a module of Ansible called package, and everything you do on Ansible is basically using a module. One important thing, you can see that this configuration file is at this stage is showing also something called notify. I'm quickly going to explain that, and we are coming back to that in a couple of slides. But it means that the notified attribute means that if the package module perform a change on the target system, it's going to notify another part of the playbook. Basically, this is implemented so that if change need to have, for instance, a restart of the software, that's how you do it. You just say, okay, I change the configuration file, please notify the restart handler so that the target software is being restarted. After installing Nginx, we are going to look at the configuration. Oh, forgot to mention something very important. Ansible will not install Nginx if it's already installed. Ansible will only perform action that needs to be performed. So it's called independency. So first time you run, it's going to install Nginx, and the run after that, Nginx is going to be already installed. Nothing will happen here. So second step is deploying a configuration file, like any software you want to deploy a software is configuration file. So this is how you do it, and you base that on a template because Ansible has a very neat template mechanism that we're going to see in a minute. And you say, okay, this is my template. Please valorize it properly and deploy it on the target and ensure that the configuration of Nginx is restarted or reloaded actually. Okay, this is a template. It's called nginx.g2. It's using something called Jinja2, which is a templating mechanism used by Ansible. As you can see, it's very simple. Everything in black on white is a regular Nginx config file, and everything in green on my slide is variables used by Ansible to valorize, to create and generate the appropriate conf. So in this case, we're doing something very simple. We used variables that are already defined by Ansible, like Ansible node name to define the server name. So when you go to Nginx, it's going to reply, I am running on this machine, and using the default IPv4 address to bind the server to the remote, to the external address. Very simple, very easy to understand, hopefully. Second part of the playbook, we are back on the nginx.yml playbook. We have now handlers. As I mentioned earlier, handlers are basically part of the playbook reacting to notification. So we had two notifications during the first part of the playbook. The first one was ensure that Nginx is running. Indeed, if you install the Nginx server, you want it to be running afterwards. So this is how it's happening. It's like, oh, okay, I see a change. You install Nginx. If you had to install it, it wasn't running. So I'm going to ensure that it's running. So state started. Second step is that, oh, maybe you modified the config file. So I will ensure that the state is reloaded. Now, let's take a little pause, have a little brain exercise. Can you thinking about this automation, can you see something that's not going to work? Like something that may break depending on some circumstances. This is a rhetorical question. I don't need to reply on stuff. I'm just giving you, give your brain a few instants to think about it. So here, what you could think might not work. We could say, okay, Nginx install, start Nginx, fine, configuration change, reloading Nginx. But what's happening if I change the configuration, Nginx is installed, but the server is done? You could think that this is kind of a loophole. No, because that's a very nice feature of our like, logic of Ansible. The reloaded state implies that the server may be running. So the fact that the config file has been changed and needs to be reloaded will trigger a start of the Nginx server being done. Okay, so that's just a little trick to make you think a bit. Like it's always good in interactivity to when doing tutorial to think about things, but it's also to show that automation is complicated. You have to think about a lot of different cases. You can't just it's very easy to write a playbook doing a basic install. Doing a playbook that's going to cope with the various invalid states a target machine can be is a bit more demanding. Last part of my crash course, there is of course a lot more module. However, keep in mind that most playbooks are going to match the 3 big steps I've done shown you. You're going to install stuff, you're going to deploy configuration file, and you're going to trigger services and start services. And generally, most playbooks are going to do those 3 different things. Obviously, if the software is more complicated, that can be more demanding. If you are familiar with Apache Kafka, for instance, where you have to start a zookeeper on some brokers and maybe some data connect things, that is a bit more complicated. But at the end, you are still doing install software, deploy configuration for software, fire services. Obviously, we have variables in Ansible. I have not time here to describe how much we can use them, but they can be overridden at different levels. They can be, their value can be manipulated, so you can use filter to go through list, or transform string into integers and stuff like that. So you have a lot of power on this side. And more importantly for today, Ansible can be extended through something called collections. So because of my crappy French accent, and today you have a lot of crappy French accent, like you already at Jeff's and then there's another one coming afterward. Collection, maison, la connection. No, it's not two different words, so they double L. So in French, it would be easy with collection. But anyway, so you can extend Ansible using collection, and in this case, I'm showing you a playbook using the collection I built with my team to help manage WildFly. So if you use the collection called middleware automation WildFly, you have a lot of you have a full collection dedicated to help you manage WildFly. Okay, that was my crash course, and we are already at the demo. Perfect. I'm right on time. So I'm going to, it's not even, I'm not even disconnected. So this is an instance of Red Hat Ansible Automation Platform. Obviously, this is a product from Red Hat. There is an upstream version. I just use that because it's ready. I have it under my ND, so I didn't want to set up a full upstream version for the demo. So I'm using the product one. I apologize. I hope you won't mind. So basically, this is giving you this software is giving you like an overview, like a nice UI web overview of your system. You can see that there is also this is a demo system. So as you can see and guess, this is the last time I did a demo. Like this was a month ago. I was in France doing a demo with the system. So for those 2 days, it was very much used. Then nothing happened for a long time. Only in the last days, I've been preparing this demo. So as you can see, it's been ramping up in the last days. This is obviously a demo system, like this is not representative of a production system. You will have hundreds of hosts, you will have dozens of projects, and maybe 2 dozen of inventories. Let's look a bit at the topology of the system, like just to give you an idea of how many machines or whatever. So Ansible has a notion of inventory. You may remember that from the previous talk. Basically, you run a playbook and you attach this playbook to an inventory, which kind of tells the playbook those are the machines you have to manage. So in this case, we have an inventory called WildFly. This is full of hosts running WildFly. So as you can see, we have 3 instances. They are called WildFly cluster 1, 2, and 3, and they are designed to run a WildFly cluster. There is some tricks about that. It's not only 3 nodes. We're going to see that in a minute, but that's the idea. Obviously, Ansible also has notion. Ansible Automation Platform has also notion of project. So we have a project called WildFly Cluster, and in this project we have a GitHub project here reference that is giving us a playbook we're going to use. So at this point, I'm going to jump on GitHub to show you the playbook. Up. So this is GitHub. Wrongling, but still GitHub. That's the project. So you can see that there is some playbooks in it. There is a main top playbook at the center. This is my setup playbook. So again, in the story I'm trying to tell today, we are not focusing on D0 operation, but on D1. So this is the playbook we already ran to set up everything. So when I'm going to run this playbook, you're going to see that most of the stuff is green because it was already run a couple of times and everything has been installed. Because again, day one operation, not D0. However, to understand what we did, we have to look at this playbook. So this playbook is using, of course, the WildFly collection, as mentioned before. It's downloading some apps. As you can imagine, the variable WildFly apps is defined in the apps var file, and this is telling the system each instance of WildFly needs to deploy some application. Please download them on the system so that you can deploy them. And then there is a call to a role provided by the middleware automation.wildfly collection called WildFly install, which is going to do half of the job we want to see done. This is going to install the software, meaning download the zip file, install the dependencies. Like, I need to have zip to open the zip file. I need to have Java install, a specific version of Java. I need to have like user created. All of that is done during an install. At the end of the install, what you have is more or less an unzip WildFly on the file system of the target system and everything ready to run it. You have not run it yet because to run it, you need to have services. And this is what the second playbook is doing inside this file. It's going to move from, okay, we have like a dead WildFly on the hard drive. Now let's create not one, but 2 instances of WildFly. This is an interesting trick here. We are running 2 different WildFly, 2 different instances of WildFly on the same target system. As we have 3 nodes, at the end, we have 6 nodes in the WildFly cluster. 3 machines, 6 nodes. The cool thing is that this is always a bit tricky to have collocated instance of WildFly. You need to do some port shifting. You need to ensure that some files are not shared. Like every log file every instance needs to have its own log file, its own data file, its own deployment folder. So it's a bit like it's done everything is done in WildFly to do it easily, but you have to do the work of configuring everything. Obviously, the nice thing here is that the collection is there for you. You just give it a couple of important, basic information on, how the instance is called, where does the instance live, and boom, done. Okay, that's pretty cool already. I want to show you the var file before we move further. The var file is just giving you a few specific configuration of the WildFly instance. So in this case, because we want a cluster, we are going to deploy the standalone full HA. Hopefully, everybody on this call is familiar enough with WildFly to understand what is a cluster and why do we deploy this file. We are going to specify where does the instance live. We have opted to put them in OPT instances. So this is where the file specific to each instance of WildFly are going to live. We add a couple of Java OPT parameters, so a bit more memory, and a very important part, we enable the YAML config. So YAML config is a very cool feature from WildFly from a couple of versions now. This was developed by Emmanuel Huguenet, and it's a very cool feature which allows you to configure WildFly after the boot of WildFly using a YAML config file. And the cool thing is that YAML works very well with templating and with Ansible, so we can just specify a specific configuration of WildFly, one of the subsystems, using YAML on a template from Ansible. Just to demo that quickly or show that quickly, we are going to look at one of those templates, the YAML configuration. So here you can see that this is more or less like a reflection of a fragment of the standalone XML file from WildFly, except that in this case, we are adding a system property called GBoss ID and also a GMSQ. There is a reason for this GMSQ to be there, and we'll come back on that later on. Okay, I think this is enough blah blah. Let's show you some stuff running. So there is a bunch of playbooks. The first I'm going to show you is, because life is stupid, the last one, WildFly cluster playbook. This playbook is running the main playbook as I've shown you, except that the Ansible Automation platform allows me to override a few variables before I run it. Right now, I'm going to run it as it is, meaning that I don't want to use TCP ping for the cluster. We're going to come back to that in a minute, and we want to use Java 11. Run. As you can see when the stuff is appearing. So first of all, you might notice there is a bit of delay and there is some gray things happening on the, like those gray thingy are happening on the web UI. This is just because the machine hosting Ansible platform is a bit far away from a laptop. So the latency between AAP on my machine is not great. So that's where we have those gray stuff. But the latency between Ansible Automation platform on the target host is not so bad. So as you can see, everything is green, and every time it's green, it means that nothing is done on the target. The target was already ready, but there is a few change. So I did that on purpose. Before the demo, I kind of changed a couple of things, just that this playbook is doing something. But basically, most of the work has been already done. Everything is set up, and at the end of this execution, we're going to have everything like green on yellow, and we're going to be in the step we want to be. So, as again, the goal is to talk about day one operation. Let's recap what we want to have as a base. So we deployed everything, and we want to have a cluster running 6 nodes of WildFly, each communicating through a cluster with a couple of apps being deployed. As you can see, we are deploying an app called Kitchen Sink, and we are also deploying an app called Info. And on top of those apps, but that's all actually. So we want those apps, and we want them running. So, yeah. Not like restarting, like of course we change the configuration, so there is a few restarts. What I'm going to show you after that is that the cluster is deployed, but using the UDP configuration. So if you're not familiar with WildFly clustering, you know that out of the box, you can start a WildFly instance with the right configuration file, and Groups is basically going to discover for you the member of the cluster. It's using multicast and UDP for that, just saying, hey, hello, who is there? And somebody's like, oh, I'm here. And like every machine is responding, and the cluster magically forms. It's a very cool feature. It makes it very easy to build a cluster. It's a very cool way of doing things, and Groups is great. Groups is one of the Java project I love the most. Great. I have to reconnect. Same thing. You know, as I told you, my machine is a bit far away. Well, I can demo you that Ansible platform support SSO. As I told you, my machine is a bit far away, so sometimes there is some disconnection. Let's go back to the job. It's still running anyway, so we did not miss anything. So as I was saying, the cluster basically uses UDP and multicast to auto-discover itself, but quite often there is network infrastructure that makes that impossible, and people want you to use TCP. So let's just do a quick, we're going to use, first of all, I want to show you that I'm not lying. That's very important. So I told you that there is a WildFly instance running some application. So let's take one of the IP. Let's take this one. Let's go there, go on here and say, okay, do you have Kitchen Sink? Yes. And just that to show you it's not like a static page, like you don't put like a static page doing nothing. Like if I do this and if I do that, as you can see, there is an extra line here. And so this app is working, the cluster is working. I also have another small app used by a playbook. This app is called Info, and this app has been designed to retrieve the configuration of the cluster and tell us if the cluster is using TCP ping or if it's using UDP. So let's run for that the info playbook. So the info playbook is doing something very stupid. It's just going to each target, do a curl statement to access to my info app and retrieve the output. So as you can see, this WildFly configuration config is actually UDP. We are using UDP with multicast. We're not using TCP ping. And this is the version 1.3 of the app. Okay, that's again important for later on. So now we are in our day one scenario. The system has been running for a while. We are very happy in pre-production. Everything was set up with clustering UDP, multicast, and it worked very fine. But now we have to move the whole system to production. And we promote like the running system into production, but there is a blocker because the network people are like, no, you cannot use, we don't want to have multicast in production. Fine, buddy. We plan for that, so we can modify the playbook, or we can just configure the playbook to change the configuration of the entire cluster for us. So we just go there and say, no longer false. Now we say true. Up, fire, fire, and now the playbook is going to run again. Is going to modify the YAML configuration file. I'm going to show you while this is running. Up there is a little YAML configuration file here called configure TCP ping. And you can see that here, if we define this variable, the value for the WildFly cluster config property becomes TCP ping instead of UDP. And of course, if we define this value, this whole segment is added to the configuration. And now my TCP ping configuration is automatically generated with the right value so that the WildFly instances can recognize each other and understand how to communicate. Pretty cool. So it's still running over there. At some point, it's going to see that the YAML configuration, it's already saw it. I need to find a way to make this thing stop. Like, you know, I can demo it without running after my stuff. As I said, Ansible noticed that the YAML config was different than it should be, because it's still, the one on the system was still pointing to a UDP system. We want a cluster using TCP ping. It has modified those stuff, and now let's go back to the stuff. It's running. Most of the stuff happening. I've changed nothing for now. Oh, perfect. Nothing for now because this is the only change we have to implement, but because we modified the YAML configuration file, we triggered a restart of the services because, of course, Ansible is smart. He noticed that the configuration changed and we need to restart the services for this configuration to be applied. I'm going to give it a few more instants for this to finish, and then I'm going to fire the info app again, and the info app is going to, this time, hopefully, tell us that we are using TCP ping instead of UDP. Up. Yeah, I'm up. I'm going to prepare that. Info app, info app. So what's the point here to, like, no, just to keep in mind, everything has been automated. We just wrote a simple playbook, or actually we just, okay, my bad. I fired that too quickly. And of course, half of the server are not up yet. Let's try again. Maybe now it's finished. If it's red again, I will run it again anyway. So as I was saying, everything is automated. We did 0 manual step, like I did not connect to any machine with SSH. I did not, okay. So I will run it again to not have it red, but you can already see here that I do have TCP ping. My cluster has switched to TCP ping. Everything is now on TCP ping. Oh, and in case you did not understood that, did I show that somewhere? No, this is generated by the ML config. Yeah, my bad. Yes, there is something else later on when we're going to use the TCP, the stack. Okay, so let's just to not have something red because it's a bit annoying. I'm going to run it again, and now hopefully everything is restarted, and you can see a green output. Otherwise, I'm moving forward. Like, you know, enough. Okay, everything is green. We're still running the version 1.3, and we have the cluster config. Okay, so that is basically our first, like, you know, use case as what I call day one operation. So now we deploy it in production, everybody is happy, and after a few weeks, of course, somebody is reporting a CVE and like a security issue, like, oh, there is a security issue, what do we do? There is a fix in OpenJDK 17. You know what? We need to upgrade anyway. We know the app is running well under 17. Let's go for that. Let's just update the whole system. So, of course, to update the whole system, you have to install the JDK on every system and change the configuration of WildFly to use this right JDK. So for that, we're going to use again our little playbook, and this time on top of this configuration, we're going to say, hey, we want JDK 17, or in this case, OpenJDK 17. And you can see that this variable is used here, and this is the variable going to be used to start WildFly. So now I just do next again. Running the same playbook, again, same story. Ansible is going to run on each target. Most of the configuration of the target is going to be fine. It's going to do nothing. Okay, everything is okay. At some point, it's going to notice that the systemd configuration is out of sync. Why? Because we want to use Java 17, and previously systemd was configured to use Java 11. So when it's going to spot that, it's going to change on each target the systemd configuration for both services. Remember, each machine has 2 instances of WildFly. Here we are, where you can see that here. So the first instance, the instance we call WildFly 0 has been updated on all the machine. And if we go a bit down, you're going to see that also on the, maybe I can do that. Up. Also on the second instance, now it's done also. Second instance, each machine has been updated. So now the systemd configuration is correct. Obviously, until we restart WildFly, the fact that the systemd configuration is correct is not going to give us what we want because we are still running the previous instance with Java 11. Okay, arriving at the running handler, perfect. Yes, so I'm going to move forward because I need to do a couple of clicks. So again, I'm going to try to verify what I've just demoed because it's very easy for me to run a playbook and tell you, oh, it's work. So I'm going to show you that what we did actually work, and I'm going to, for that, to use a feature of WildFly, which is called, a feature of Ansible, which is called ad hoc command. So I showed you that with Ansible Automation Platform, you can run playbooks, but you can also run command directly on the target system. So this group, this inventory has all our WildFly instance. So we're going to say, okay, run on all, and we say, hey, run a command. Which command are we going to run? We're going to run systemctl, of course, which is a shell command. We're going to run with the system, we put up systemctl. If you're not familiar with systemd, this is the command to interact with systemd services. We're going to ask a status of something, and we're going to ask for all the WildFly on the target system. So the nice thing of systemd, you can put a wildcard in the service name, and basically it's going to match with any services running. To be able to see what we want to see, we need to be a bit more verbosy. So I'm going to increase the level of verbosity, and then we press next. Like here, we are going to select an execution environment. This is very much an Ansible detail, but I'm going to describe it now because this is one of the reasons you don't have to care about Python if you're using Ansible to deploy a WildFly or Java solution. Basically, an execution environment is a container where all the Python stuff needed for Ansible to run on Ansible platform has been put in. So you don't need to maintain like the Python environment clean or proper on top of your Ansible automation platform instance because it's basically managed inside the container. So the container is like always up to date on whatever. In our case, we take the default container. Because we're running a command and not a regular playbook, we also have to specify which credential to use. Sorry, I have again to deconnect and reconnect. This is not like just saying this is an issue with the infrastructure we deployed. This is not an issue with the software. This is our testing infrastructure, which is not great. So let's go back here. Yeah, I'm not running out of time, but I am not in advance. Okay, host up, run command. I also love that this happened at the worst time because this is one of the stuff where I have to write the most of the things. You know, Murphy fucking law. Up, up. And here we go. Stoop, up, credential. So here we say, hey, we want the WildFly credential. So the credential used to connect to all the WildFly machine, firing the command. So now it's going to run, go on each of our machine, and I did a typo. WildFly, I must have done a typo somewhere. It's annoying. Okay, let me just try it again. Up. I love how it's failing on the most cumbersome stuff, of course. Just to be sure I don't do a typo again, I'm just going to put the first instance. This way we don't. I think I forgot the command actually. That might have been just that. Status. More verbosity. Let's give it a try. Hopefully this is going to work this time. Up. I have other stuff to show you. This is not the interesting part at all. Well, it is still interesting. Now it works. Okay. Okay, as you can see, all the WildFly instance and all the system are running very fine. If I click that, I can have more information on the data. And here I have what I really wanted to show you. This is telling you that now this system is running using JDK 17. Yes, you can see it on the stream. It's not ideal, but you can see it. Obviously, before it was using Java 11, and as I showed you, by just running this playbook, changing one variable, we have migrated an entire cluster on Java 17. I think it's pretty cool. I mean, if you're doing ops with WildFly, you should find it that cool. And hopefully, if you don't use Ansible, you have something similar to do your work. Otherwise, I guess you have to do for loops on shells on bash script. Okay, so we configured this mapping, and on day 2, we upgraded everything to Jakarta 17. Oh, yes, before I forget, just like, to show you that, it's still working. If I go there, you can still see kitchen sink. I'm just going to quickly, do some stupid stuff again, up. It's still working. I did not wire the app to databases, so every time we restart the GBoss or WildFly, we lose the data. But anyway, the app is running, and that's the point here. So that's pretty fine, pretty cool. So now it's been a couple of months, the app is good, but there was a few issues, and a software update has been decided. So now we want to update every instance of info running on info is my tiny app I'm using for the info playbook. And we want to update every instance of info running on each of those 6 nodes of our cluster. Again, no issue. We're going to write a little playbook for that. It's called deploy info app. And it's going to show us, to give us a chance to see another very, very cool and simple feature of WildFly, of Ansible. 2 days on by day, of Ansible, which I find pretty cool. Because, well, we're going to see. So let me start with update app. So this is a playbook. So first of all, let's ignore the beginning. Especially for now, let's ignore this part. What do we do here? We have a path to the new app. The new app will be deployed on opt info. We will have the old app living in info, in temp info, in case we need to redeploy it. This is where we were going to denote the new app. This is what's happening here. We just denote the new app. As you can see, it's version 1.4. And then we do here a cool thing, an update or rollback. So basically, we call this playbook and say, okay, this is a new app, please deploy. And if the new app, if something failed in this playbook, Ansible has a notion of try-catch, if you will, and it will basically catch that and say, okay, something has failed, I'm deploying the whole app. That's already pretty cool. And now let's come back here and understand what this thing is doing. Serial is an attribute you can use to specify the Ansible execution strategy you want to use. In this case, what does that mean? It means that Ansible will first pick one node, run the playbook, and if everything is fine, then it will pick 2 other nodes, run the playbook, and if everything is fine, then it will pick up whatever node remains. This is what 100% means. Whatever remains as a node, and applies the configuration. So it's a very cool and powerful way to have, I think it's called rolling update. Basically, you just you take one node after another, and you can also play, you can also automate with the load balancer in front that do not have interruption of service, but you can basically automate your cluster one by one, deploy application one by one, and restart it one by one. Again, very, very cool. I mean, I find it very cool. Just to show you what the playbook, how the deployment is working, that's a bit interesting because this is calling very much the WildFly features of the collection, of the WildFly collection. So here, the first playbook is going to be called is basically a for loop. As you remember, we have 2 instances on the target, so we need to deploy 2 times the app. Once we download it for every instance on the target, then we deploy it on instance 0 and then on instance 1. And the actual work is here. Come on. Here we use the playbook provided by the WildFly util role, part of the WildFly collection, and it's called GBoss CLI. And this playbook is wrapping the how to communicate with the CLI on the target, the GBoss CLI, so the CLI for WildFly. What is very cool here, and I think if there is some admin in the room, they might like that. What's happening is Ansible is not executing the WildFly remotely. It's not connecting from the Ansible automation platform to the target system. It is executing it directly on the target system using localhost, which means that you don't need to expose your CLI management and interface to the internal network. as long as there is SSH on the target, and you need to have that for Ansible, you can run CLI command transparently. It's just going to be run locally instead of being run on the Ansible controller, which I find is a very cool way of making your system more manageable. Okay, let's demo, deploy, and rollback. So obviously, to demo the rollback, I'm going to like spoil you, or like, you know, spoil what's going to happen. Or 1.4 version is going to fail. There is an issue with it. Actually, the issue is that I put a throw illegal state exception in the on the first method. So whenever you call it, it's going to crash. And this is what's happening. So as you can see here, the Ansible only picked one node, the node finishing by the IP.11, tried to update, it failed, so it rolled back here and updated with the old version. That's the old version, just to be clear. Yeah, we can see it very clearly in the screen, but blah, blah, blah. Yeah, here we're using TMP as a base, and you may remember TMP is the old version. And it's basically failing. Why it is failing here? Because if it doesn't fail, it's going to keep updating the other instance. So instead of breaking them to redeploy the version, we do nothing. Pretty cool. So now, for the purpose of showing you things that work, we're going to run it again, but this time we're going to use the right value. Oh, we're going to use not the right value. We're going to use a different version. So there is a fix done by the development team, and now we are going to say, okay, like don't install 140, install 141. Can you see 141 on the? Yeah, you can guess it's 141. Good enough. Up here we are, and we fire the stuff. So again, same procedure as last year. A joke only German will understand, I think. It's going to take the first instance. Like, okay, I'm downloading the app. First instance, I'm editing the app. This time it works, so perfect. No issue at deployment. So I'm going with the next one, and now we can see, or we'll see in 2 seconds, that the next one are also getting updated. So now we're taking two other nodes, updating them, and done. To now demonstrate that we actually did something, I'm again going to run my info file, my info playbook, and my info playbook is going to tell us that now that the app running on the target system is 141. I forgot, I should have run it before to show you that we deployed 1.3, but you have to believe me on that. As you can see now, we are still in TCP ping, but now we are running 141. Okay, that's already a pretty cool, like, you know, day one operation stuff. Again, just in case you don't believe me, perfect. Good time for me to log out and relog. Again, this is not an issue with Ansible Automation Platform. This is our setup, and of course, demo effect. This has not happened as much as it happened in the last hour to me in the last 10 days. Like, I have not reconnected that much to AAP for the last 10 days, but like half of my connection have been in the last hour because, of course, you know, demo effect. And I did something wrong with the kitchen sink, my bad. But anyway, let's move forward. Okay, so here we are back. Now, another story. So now we have updated stuff. Again, we are moving forward. The production is happy. Now it's been a quarter or like 4 months that the application has been deployed. And there is some issues because the business unit is reporting that some messages are getting lost. Like, there is some information that people are applying for something, for instance, and somehow they have to apply twice. So the developer have a bit investigated, and they realized that on each WildFly instance, the dead plate and display the execution. I have not done that, but if you want to be clean, you can also remove the template, which is kind of an artifact from the target system. Okay, let's see the template now. Up. Template is here. DLQ CLI. I am not an expert at all in DevKVMQ, so I hope I'm not making mistake, but basically playing around with WildFly, I was like, oh, my GMSQ has a pause function, also a resume function. So before I move stuff out of my DLQ, I'm going to pause the DLQ, move the message, resume the DLQ. I hope it makes sense. Do not do that because you think I'm right. Double check the documentation. Anyway, we have this script, and what's going to happen now is that when we run this script, on each instance, I know I keep repeating that, on each instance of the system, for each instance of WildFly, Ansible is going to connect, deploy this CLI script, run it, move all the messages in all the little queues. Remember, we have 6 nodes for our cluster, so there is 6 DLQs, and in all of them, we're going to move the messages into the business GMS queue so that they can be processed again by the application. Work very fine. But of course, if you know a bit of CLI, when you do this kind of operation, you just have outcome success on nothing else. I think I still have a few minutes, right? Please tell me, Tom, tell me if I don't have like much time left.
You have. You've got like I think maybe -2 minutes. Let me just double check. Yeah, I think you've got -2 minutes.
Okay, so I'm stopping there just to say that I wanted to show you also EDA. So this is like, you know, we have like a rule book. We can pick up that WildFly it's done, and if WildFly is done, the rule book is going to restart it. Let's not demo that. We have no time. If there is any question, I am very happy to reply to question. I hope that for once I was not too quick and that I was didactic. Yeah. Do we have any question, Tom?
There is nothing in the Zulip thread, question-wise, and there is nothing in the YouTube chat that I can see either. So no, we don't have any questions.
Well, that's fine. I'm just going to like switch back. I think I have nothing to do on my slide, Q&A, blah, blah, blah. So I'm just going to switch back to the, I will stop sharing my screen for the next guy. Anyway, if you have questions, you could not ask now. If you're watching this stream after the fact, like please go on Zulip or go on whatever you want to reach out to me. I'll be very happy to reply to any question. Sadly, after my talk, I have to run, so I won't reply to your question right now. But if you ask me a question or if there is anything I can do, I will reply by tomorrow. Yeah, I hope it was entertaining, guys. Thanks a lot for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Romain. That was great. Thank you very much. I have to apologize. I managed to needed an SSO sign in myself for a minute there in the stream, so we missed a minute of the demo also. But yeah,
I guess this is the topic of the day. Again, I want to say, like, I really want to say, I have reconnected 10 times in the last 2 hours, and I have reconnected 5 times in the last 10 days. This is not a bug of the product. So, guys, have a good one.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks again. Thank you.
Yeah, bye. Thanks.
Bye. Super. So, our next. I should share the feedback slide on the stream. So just bear with me. Sorry. Scott, you can be getting yourself ready as well, please. So I'm going to share the mini conference slide. Okay, cool. So yeah, if you have been following along in the chat anyway, you'll have seen that provided links for feedback for Romain's talk, and there's a link on to the Zulip thread as well. This QR code should also take you eventually to the form to fill in. Yeah, I think I can hear Scott, so I'm going to start setting up. So Scott, have you started presenting? And I'm going to pin your presentation to the screen, you see.
Oh, yeah, let me go ahead and do that. Let's see. that one.
Okay, that looks like it's coming over just fine. We've got basically a like a browser window, I guess, with one tab open in it. So I guess that's what you're intending.
That's close enough. I
Cool.
didn't really know what to expect, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I think we got something that we can work with. So yeah, if you want to take it away, thanks a lot, Scott, and yeah, it's over
Okay,
to you.
great. Thank you, Tom. Hi, everybody. Scott Marlowe. I'm on the WildFly team for a number of years as a developer, and about 11 years ago, I took the lead of running the TCK or leading the running of the TCK for WildFly, and more recently, I took over as the lead of the platform TCK project, for Jakarta EE, and now co-lead of that project, which is great. Where I have a co-lead, and we have more contributors, and it's really going well. But yeah, I wanted to give you an idea. You probably all understand what like deploying and writing WildFly applications pretty well. I don't know how many people understand or have heard of what the TCKs are and why, and how you might want to get involved with them some more in the future. So anyways, the Jakarta EE platform TCKs are used by WildFly and other EE implementers to validate that the the implementation of the app server is correct. It correctly implements the various Jakarta EE spec APIs and various requirements specified also in the Java docs as well. And is that 100% of those requirements kind of thing? No, not really 100%. Some people like to think of it as a great QE test, quality test. And the intention is to cover the most difficult to implement features. But what does that really mean? What are the most what are the most difficult features exactly, anyways? But anyways, just for give you a general sense, in our CI, we see it takes around 6 to 9 hours roughly to run the TCK. And I calculated once how long it would take on a single computer, and that was a number of years ago, but that was about 3 days, I believe. And so it really, it's too much to run locally, but you run it in parallel over many cores, and it's not so bad. So how do applications benefit from the TCKs that WildFly has to pass? Well, we know that Java is portable, write once, run everywhere, and all that. The Jakarta EE specs are also portable to different implementations. The the way that different implementations actually validate that they've correctly implemented various parts of the specs is by running the TCK test. And again, you have to ask what what does what does this all really mean, this portability and all? Well, it's it's we want it to be as fast as possible to run these tests, but we also would like to see more coverage. And could you help us, get there by contributing to TCKs? Okay, that's a really good question, because in what world would you even think about contributing to a TCK? So I wanted to present a scenario that could make sense to you. And over the years, I have heard, I have seen issues or requests for help where people say, "Hey, we don't seem to be seeing a correct implementation of a particular spec," and I'll go in and investigate and say, "Yeah, you know what? You're right," and we'll add a unit test to cover that. Clearly, those that have reported such problems are for things that aren't covered by TCK tests currently. And could we get more TCK coverage to cover, let's say, all of every spec requirement and every spec API, method or field? I think that could happen. That could definitely happen. It's just a matter of adding tests. And I wanted to kind of highlight for you, if you ever hit one of those situations and want to contribute a test to the TCKs, that's definitely something you should be able to do. The problem, the main problem has been only a very small number of people in the world have been contributing to these tests over the last 20-something years. And more recently for Jakarta EE 11, we started rewriting the test frameworks to away from Apache Ant to instead use Apache Maven, and instead of the Java test harness, which predates JUnit and other test frameworks. It was like the first test framework for Java years ago in the 90s. And we're moving to JUnit. So we're hoping that work we've been doing over the last few years will help make it easier for you and others to contribute tests to the TCKs to help us improve the coverage. And it's it's an ongoing process, but I hope that this kind of gives you a sense for what that's about. I wanted to take let's see. I think I should be able to open up, and let me just take a quick peek. Okay. Nope. Okay. I don't see.
You've got
Okay.
the platform TCK showing, like the source code. So I guess it might be what you're expecting.
Yeah. Okay. There was just there was a delay. Okay. So I think I see it on the YouTube view now. Okay. So what I did was I opened up one of the tests, and we can kind of see there's these assertion IDs in the source. Those are all over the place. They're in all of the tests. Basically, I'm going to go back to the slides now. The assertion IDs basically describe the contract that's being covered. It points to a particular Java doc, like spec API, public field, or method. Like in persistence, maybe the persist method, for example, or in this particular case, the assertion is for proving that a EE implementation like WildFly can deploy applications that use third-party persistence providers. And this used to be a test deployed with TopLink, but now it's more of a mock persistence provider class that gets deployed. But anyways, this is a nice example that shows what you see in the test source. You see, there's a test name. There's the assertion IDs. The assertion IDs key into an XML or an HTML map file that map the assertion ID to an actual part of the EE specs. And this is kind of, as you can imagine, a bit awkward and slow to deal with, but it's a nice, clear way to, to signify what a test is for. And it would be nice if we actually just had clickable links in the source or something to that effect that was easier to deal with. But anyways, this is kind of something like if you're adding a test, you'd want to add the purpose of a test. And right now we have these assertion IDs. There's an open issue for improving, this by possibly switching to an annotation that could be included in the test source that identifies a link into an actual spec, maybe a draft spec that's in development or an actual released spec. And it can also include other fields that may be useful for presenting in the JUnit test failure what actually went wrong. And this particular issue also it makes has a reference to the OASIS standard for tagging or for for test assertions. And there's other standards in the world that could be useful to follow here. The idea isn't necessarily to follow exactly a standard, but it may give us some guidance as well as we go, as we look to make improvements there. So I hope that kind of gives you a very, very, very quick idea of what's what is going on in these in these tests that implementers like WildFly team has to pass every time we do we not only releases, but really it's part of our CI to run such such testing. And all the implementers pretty much do this. And I included some resources in the slides for links, like a link to the platform TCK mailing list and other EE mailing lists, which are mostly the spec API themselves. And so if there are any questions, I'd be happy to entertain those now.
So Scott, we just had one, I'd say it's a question, like a pair of questions in the YouTube chat. This is from Kenneth,
great.
and basically it was any news about the release date for the Jakarta EE Platform 11, and that's the first part of the question. If yes, when will WildFly support the Jakarta EE Platform 11, spring or summer 2005? So can you share any thoughts on either of those questions?
Yeah, definitely. So what we decided to do for the EE11 release is stagger the web profile release first. Usually we do the platform and the web profile release together, but we're doing is we're starting the ballot for the web profile release. And I'll find a link for that ballot and I'll post it into the chat in a minute. But yeah, so the ballot for the web profile will start, and it may succeed, or there may be further changes that need to be made, and it'll continue until it succeeds. And I think it's like roughly like a 2-week ballot, and we'll see how that goes. and then well, right now, we're already focusing on the platform TCK testing and completing any changes that we need to make for EE11. And there are changes we need to make, and it's not clear yet how long that it will take. The process is continuing though for that. And as far as WildFly goes, when will WildFly support EE11? That's a good question. And we have been working on that. But I don't really know when it'll be done. It's hard for me personally. It's hard to contribute to finishing EE11 and contribute to WildFly requirements as well. Hard to get it all done. We really need more help, I think. But yeah.
Well, yeah, I think those are great answers. Thanks, Scott. And I guess Kenneth or anyone else that's interested in following along with WildFly's progress on E11 and so forth are definitely welcome to join us over in the WildFly user community and find out more about what our plans are for upcoming releases. So yeah, thank you.
All right, I'm going to stop presenting.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Let me share a link to the. Let me present the placeholder. So yeah, there's a link for Scott's Zulip thread and his and feedback form for a session in Zulip, and in well, the link to the Zulip threads in the YouTube chat. The link to the feedback form is hopefully in both places, and also the QR code is also available there too on screen to give feedback. So thank you again, Scott. And we are now on a break until we're going to have a break in the streaming events for until 4:30 UTC plus 0. Thank you, everyone. And yeah, the stream will keep going, but we're not going to be intending to share more content before that time, apart from this placeholder. So see you back here soon. Thank you. So we're going to be starting again very shortly. Okay, so welcome back. We'll be starting very shortly indeed. So welcome back to the stream. Okay, just give it till the 1/2 mark in the UK time zone. I appreciate that doesn't transfer everywhere. So you just got under a minute. But yeah, welcome back, and I hope everyone had a great break. Just gonna go and Brian, are you ready for me to pin you onto screen and things like that?
Ready to go, sure.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, that's got us to 1/2 anyway. So next on our stream today then is gonna be Brian Stansbury, and he's our project lead for WildFly. So Brian, we're looking forward to hearing what you're going to tell us about WildFly in a vendor neutral foundation. So over to you.
All right, thank you, Tom. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining the WildFly mini conference. Okay, quickly about me. I'm Brian Stansbury. I'm an engineer at Red Hat. I'm the WildFly project lead, and I've been doing JBoss for a long time in different areas. I'm also the architect for Red Hat's JBoss EAP product, excuse me. And I guess probably maybe in this context, I'm most famous. We have the French guys who do talks with demos and cool stuff, and then I'm the guy who talks about project news and things like that. I have lots of slideware, so this is kind of one of those again. All right, what I'm here to talk about in a very simplified form is essentially WildFly, the WildFly project, going all the way back to 2001 when a company called JBoss LLC was created, has been run under basically what I call a single corporation sponsorship model, where the open source project, it's an open source project, everything's done in the open, but there's a single corporation that is basically in control of the project. That's been the case since 2001 with a couple different iterations of the JBoss company, and then since 2006 under Red Hat. What that really means is the IP, particularly the trademarks and branding, things like that, the WildFly logo, the WildFly name, all those kind of things, the domain name, those are controlled by Red Hat. And they also control, because they control those things, they also control the governance of the project. They control how the project is run. Essentially, the way WildFly is run is the Red Hat appoints the project lead, is the simple way to state that. But we've been evaluating moving to a foundation, a vendor neutral foundation, since last year, which would basically, that means is then the IP would be controlled by the foundation, not under a single corporation. We've been thinking about that since last year. People working on WildFly, key developers. I asked a little bit for community input about that earlier this year on the dev list and things like that. And as a result of all that work, we decided in this month we applied to join a foundation called Common House, which I'll talk more about later. So there's a link there. You can actually see it's an open source project, and there's like a GitHub equivalent to a GitHub issue. Where we applied to join the Common House Foundation. That happened a couple weeks ago. Okay, just a little bit of background on foundations. People probably have some basic idea of what a foundation is. People know about Apache and Eclipse and things like that, but what does that really mean? If you have a complex project and you have several different people, or a large group of people working together, you probably want to have some kind of legal organization to stand behind that, to deal with any kind of legal issues. If you're actually collecting money, you need a way to, WildFly doesn't collect money, but if some projects do, you need a way, some kind of legal organization to account for that, to deal with all those kind of things. So fundamental thing a foundation does is acts as the legal entity that stands behind the project. It's called being a fiscal sponsor. The way that works is the foundation owns the project's trademarks, logos, domains, and that kind of intellectual property. It doesn't actually doesn't control the copyright typically. Typically the copyright for an open source project resides with the people who, with the contributor. They control the copyright to their contributions. Or a lot of times if the contributor is working for a company, a lot of times their employer retains the copyright to their contributions. But so it's not the foundation. The foundation then controls the project governance, how the leadership is determined, how decisions are made, voting rules, all those kind of things. And that can vary a lot between different foundations, what kind of requirements they have. Foundations can also sometimes provide different services and infrastructure. They might have build systems, they might have CI systems, they might have issue trackers, those kind of things that they provide to projects. They might host meetings, annual events, trade shows for really large ones, all those kind of things. And some projects actually require that you use their infrastructure. Some foundations require that. And finally, a foundation, a good thing it can bring is its own form of community. The different projects that are as part of the foundation can, interact with each other via channels that are provided by the foundation, to, cross seed ideas, learn from each other, all those kind of good things. So what benefits is the WildFly project hoping to get by moving to a foundation? Some key things. The first one is we hope it can help encourage more people to contribute to the project. That's I think is probably the biggest thing that I would love to see is if the project is controlled by a single corporation, I think it's currently be the case that some contributors might be less willing to contribute or maybe their employees are less willing to allow them to contribute because there's a feeling of, well, you're basically working for a different company. Whereas if the project is a vendor neutral foundation, then it's more of a sense that you're contributing to just the general common good. So that's one hopeful benefit. There could also be increased user comfort for similar reasons. So there's less of a feeling of, oh, this project is completely under control of a single corporation. We feel more comfortable if everything was under control of something that was independent of an individual corporation that could make decisions in the general interest rather than just a single corporation's interest. I think we could stand to improve and revamp our governance processes, our openness. I think we do things in a pretty open way, but I think we could stand to codify things and rethink things and kind of do a general refresh. And moving to a foundation forces to do that. And I think that would be a good thing for the WildFly project. And finally, this is kind of just an FYI about a general thing that people might be interested in. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't want to speak too much about this, but there's a law that passed in the EU. It's going into effect called the Cyber Resilience Act that imposes a lot of requirements on software vendors to make sure that they're providing secure software. There's a lot of requirements that are, assertions, and there's definitely a lot of legal red tape type things you have to do. And really in the original way that was drafted, it would absolutely apply to an open source project as well. So an open source project, even though it's not earning any revenue, the WildFly project doesn't have any, we don't make money from anybody. Even though you're not making any money, you would have to comply with things the same as if some, a corporation selling proprietary software for, tens of millions of dollars. But they carved out in that the concept of an open source steward, which if a project is associated with one of those, that allows them to shelter from some of these requirements. So and foundations can act as open source stewards. So there's definitely a benefit to being as part of a foundation for that. And that can be very important for WildFly because it's a lot of work to do. I don't know if it's even possible to comply with everything that's required for the CRE without that. Okay, so why is this happening? What's leading to this right now? Why is all that kind of, what's the impetus for this? Just sort of some background. I work for Red Hat. Red Hat is the sponsor of WildFly, so I'm going to be talking in these next couple of slides, about Red Hat and Red Hat's thinking. So first off, the important thing to understand about Red Hat is that foundation-based upstream projects that are the backing projects behind products that Red Hat sells. Having foundation-based projects is very, very much the norm at Red Hat. I think I can safely say it's the norm. Not all projects are based at foundations, but a very large number are. And the most classic example is the Linux kernel itself. RHEL, the RHEL kernel comes from a project that is at the Linux Foundation, as do many other things that are in RHEL. Also, Red Hat uses tons and tons of projects, of course, in its products I know when as the WildFly lead or as the architect for EAP, when we're considering adding a new component into WildFly or into EAP, we feel better about it if it's coming from a vendor new to Foundation. We have more confidence in the project, and it's going to be a long-lasting project, all those kind of things. So it's logical that users of Red Hat software are going to feel the same way. So Red Hat is another way of saying Red Hat's in favor of having projects at vendor neutral foundations. Just for historical notes, there's certainly been a number of other enterprise Java projects coming out of Red Hat that have gone to foundations over the years. Keycloak went to the CMCF a number of years ago. Drools and some other related projects went to Apache and became Apache Key. So this is not something new. But it definitely has accelerated in the last year or two. People might have noticed a number of Red Hat projects moving towards foundations in the last year or two. And really, there's a couple things for that. One, there was just a general drive within Red Hat to consider that within the company. I think there was a little bit more of a, hey, this is a good idea, you should think about it, that went around within the company. But more specific to WildFly and middleware, in 2023, Erin Schnabel, who works on Quarkus and many other things, she's a distinguished engineer at Red Hat. She began working with a couple other people outside of Red Hat on the idea of a new lighter weight foundation. One, lighter weight meaning having less requirements on projects. And that eventually led last year to the formation of the Common House project. And all that activity, I think that helps spark a general interest in Red Hat, in Red Hat's middleware division in particular, in moving to a foundation. In particular, I know that helped spark last year. Hibernate and Quarkus both moved out into foundations. They actually moved to Common House, and I think that was sparked by that, the idea that this was an option, something to think about, new possibilities, and that led to a kind of a general thinking about this. So as a result of all that, the key people are myself and other people, people on this mini conference who presented and started thinking about this as well late last year. Okay, a little bit about Common House, the foundation that we've applied to. It's new. It was founded last year. The key people behind it is Erin Schnabel, distinguished engineer at Red Hat, and an awesome open source leader. A guy named Ken Finnegan, who people affiliated with WildFly and people who are familiar with the WildFly ecosystem might know, because he was a key person in WildFly Swarm, which got renamed to Thorntail. He was a key person there. He's not with Red Hat anymore, but he was in the past. And then Cesar Saavedra, who also had one time and worked for Red Hat, and he's worked for a number of enterprise Java companies. And he's well known in the Java ecosystem. He's currently at GitLab. So why Common House, or important things about Common House? There's a couple. Again, they have a number of guiding principles, and I want to just talk about the first two there. One is they're very focused on honoring the project and community identity. So Common House doesn't really push their own identity. For example, Eclipse and Apache, they definitely tend to put, they emphasize their own identity. If you're part of if you're a project at Apache, Apache is very much part of your identity. Whereas Common House, they're not really into that. If a project is there, that's, they provide their services to them, but they're not trying to drive a project to identify itself as Common House. The other key thing is they're very much about providing guidance and support, and they try to minimize the amount that they impose mandates on the projects that they sponsor. Trying to avoid lots of mandates about how you operate your project, voting rules, or using their infrastructure, or things like that. Those are the their guiding principles are really important to me. They tend to prioritize the kind of projects that really are similar to WildFly, application frameworks and libraries meant for developers, self-governing projects, code-centric, as opposed to, for example, standards bodies, all those kind of things. Okay, just some projects at Common House. There's quite a number of them. Of course, there's a number you look on this list that are quite important to WildFly itself. Hibernate and Finispan and Jackson in particular are all very major components of WildFly. I'm very happy to see Jackson there. There's a number of these projects, not by any case all of them, but a number of the projects here, started in Red Hat and moved to Common House. But in particular, Jackson is a really, really major project in WildFly, WildFly component, and it's never had any affiliation whatsoever with Red Hat. It's completely independent. So I'm happy to see a project like that at Common House. A shout out to Jeff McNeil's presentation at the beginning of the conference. If you watch that or if not, watch the recording about JBang. JBang is a great project and it's at Common House. We didn't take a decision to go to Common House lightly. We considered a number of other foundations, obviously well-known in the enterprise Java space, Apache and Eclipse. We thought a little bit about the CNCF, although I don't think we were a natural fit for cloud. I mean, WildFly definitely runs well in the cloud, but I don't know if I would call CNCF means cloud native something foundation. And we're not quite cloud native, and at least not all things. So I didn't think that seemed like a good fit. Well, the Linux Foundation itself has a number of projects that are standalone that you don't have to be part of Linux to be there. So that's an option. And then there's a number of other entities. They're called fiscal sponsorship services, where all they do is provide a legal entity behind you, but they don't provide all the infrastructure and things like that, like Apache or Eclipse would. And there's a number of those. And there's some important projects, things like Debian are at fiscal sponsorship services. So we consider all those things. What we were looking at, though, our emphasis was really, I guess the key thing is, WildFly, again, it's been an open source project since 1999. We're a very mature project with very experienced maintainers. So we kind of value, first off, retaining our brand is important to us. Having to rename our project wasn't particularly attractive. It wasn't at least me personally, it wasn't like a deal breaker, but it was definitely a big negative. We had to rename our project to be, for example, Apache WildFly. Was not really great. We didn't want to have to remove and redo, and we got all of our code repositories. We have dozens of them, and trying to reorganize them to fit with a foundation required things done in a certain way was definitely not attractive. It would be a huge time suck. And then kind of maybe most critical is we do want to improve our governance, do things better and more open and all those kind of things, but we do want to avoid with too many mandates of how we operate. Different foundations have rules of exactly how you have to do things, and you have to follow according to the rules everything you do, and that wasn't very attractive. Generally, we have, for example, we have our own CI, we have our own issue trackers, and we wanted to avoid migration to new ones if a foundation would require that. Related to Eclipse, they actually host Jakarta and MicroProfile, the standard bodies, and there was a little bit of concern if we went to Eclipse that there would be a blurred line there at the foundation level, where both a major implementation plus the Glassfish implementation of those specs, having us as an implementation and the standards all in the same foundation struck me as maybe not ideal. There could be issues where we want to do things a certain way and the standards body would prefer we didn't, and there could be conflict. And finally, having projects in Java is good. That's definitely an advantage over something like the Linux Foundation. So validating all those things, we felt that Common House was the best choice. Okay, so what would move when we go to a foundation? This is kind of an interesting question, at least philosophical, maybe, I guess, for me, is what exactly do we mean by WildFly? Because the WildFly project is actually a very, very large ecosystem. We have the main in GitHub, the WildFly organization, and then the WildFly repo. That's like the main app server repo. But there are many, many other things. We have the WildFly core. We have projects providing our tooling, projects providing Docker and OpenShift images, lots of feature packs that are not part of the main WildFly, like the data sources feature pack. And then, probably a couple dozen component projects that are only used by WildFly. So things that will almost certainly move to the foundation, anything in the GitHub organization, we expect to move. And we'll actually probably move a few repos that are in other GitHub organizations into WildFly. And most things in WildFly Extras also we would include into what moves to the foundation. There's also, I provided a link, there's actually a WildFly dev list discussion about other projects that are less obvious or less clear cut whether they would move, whether they are they WildFly or are they kind of have their own independent existence and maybe they did not want to move as part of WildFly. A classic example is the WildFly Electron project, which is a key component of WildFly, but it's also used elsewhere. So whether they'd want to move along or move the Common House as part of the WildFly migration or not, so we'll be having a number of discussions about those kind of things, and we'll sort that out as the process of migrating continues. Okay, so what's next? As I said at the very beginning, we've applied to Common House. So the first step, see if they're interested. It's not a given. They have their own priorities, whether they want to take on a project at a particular time or not, whether it makes sense for them to do that, whether, we'll see. I think they're interested, but they're an independent entity, so they make their own decisions. For sure, as part of going into a foundation, a key thing is we are going to have to rework and codify our governance, the way the project is governed. We have a formal governance model, which is basically Red Hat appoints the lead, and that's me. And then the lead is a benevolent dictator. So basically, it means the lead makes decisions. That's kind of the formal definition of how the project is run, and that obviously is not how things really work, in my opinion. I very much try to be collaborative, and people raise opinions, and I try to defer as much as possible whenever I can to people in their own area of expertise, and avoid making decisions as much as I can, and just be a very much more collaborative and open group of people. I think in general that's how it works. Well, maybe others will disagree, but that's definitely the intent. But to move to a foundation, we're going to have to, for example, Common House will require us to have in our repos a governance.md document that describes how the project is governed. That could be things like voting rules or all those kind of things, how people get into what different roles people have in the project and how people end up in those roles, all those kind of things. So we're going to need to codify all that and rework it, because it can't, once you're in a vendor neutral foundation, it can't be governance on the basis of a single corporation appoints the lead and that person decides everything. That can't work. So I'm excited about that, changing, codifying and improving the way we do things. So keep an eye on the WildFly dev list, because as much as possible, we should try to discuss things there, do things openly. So keep an eye on that. Beyond that, there's going to be lots and lots of paperwork, which is my problem, not yours. And so it will definitely take time for this transition to happen. I know other projects that have moved, I think it takes months. It takes quite a while. I'm sure I'll get to know a number of lawyers and things like that to help us out. So this will definitely take time. We will keep you informed now. So keep an eye on the WildFly dev list in particular. That's the place where I'll try to post information about what's happening. And that's all I had in terms of slides. So I'm happy to take any questions that anybody has.
So Brian, there haven't been any questions in the YouTube chat or the Zulip thread. I'm not seeing any appearing now either. So just like to say thank you for your presentation today. I will there was a remark that's just been added. This presentation alleviated a lot of my concerns. Thank you. So that's good. Glad, glad you were able to do that for the community member.
Oh, good. I'm glad too. Thank you.
I will. Yeah, so the link to the feedback form for the session has been provided in the YouTube chat and on Zulip. So please provide your feedback on that. There's also this QR code that your people are welcome to use as well. But yeah, thanks a lot, Brian. I'll remove you from the spinning of the stream. Okay, cool. So our next session, we're just a few minutes ahead of time. I'm going to keep to time, so we're not going to start just yet. We'll start in 5 minutes, but I will put this blank slide on for now. And we'll give our next presenters a few minutes just to join in. So prepare, get ready for the right time as well. So yeah, thank you everyone. I hope you've been enjoying the session so far today. We also have a general feedback form for the entire event. I'm going to go and put that in the YouTube chat as well. Please do fill that in when you've finished participating in the session today. So I've pasted that into the, I've added that into the YouTube chat. Thank you for our presenters that have presented so far today, and we'll be having our final session of the day in a few minutes. I will go off the stream myself right now, but we will be starting again in a couple of minutes, so thank you. Okay, so we're on time, and I can see we've got everyone here that we need. So I'm going to go ahead and just get everything set up on screen. I'm not certain if it's Emmanuel or Jean-Francois who's presenting first, but whoever it is, do you want to like share whatever it is you're intending to, and I can sort of like configure the screen a bit?
Sure, it's me. It's Jean-François that
Okay.
will start.
And I'm going to pin you at the side of it. And I'm going to unpin myself. And I'll just get it so it kind of shows well at the side of you. It's kind of hard to remember whether to stretch the screen or pull the screen to the side. I think it's that. There we go. I think it seems to change each time or something. Cool. And I guess I'll just line this up a little bit more. And it's a bit too much. I think I need to. Okay, that's too much. It's better. So I think we should go with this that I have now. So yeah, Jean-Francois, it's over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. So, hello everybody. So my name is Jean-François Denise. I am part of the WildFly team. I am mainly involved in provisioning aspect and tooling of the WildFly server, but more recently, I have been involved in a project in which we attempt to use AI in the context of WildFly. This presentation is going to be done by myself and my colleague, Emmanuel Hugonnet. So we have two parts in this presentation. I will cover the WildFly MCP project. I will focus on the MCP protocol and see how we can use it to interact with WildFly servers using natural language, LLM, AI. And then Emmanuel will present you how you can develop Jakarta EE application that needs AI using WildFly and the WildFly IE feature pack. So WildFly MCP. So this project leverage the MCP, that stands for Model Context Protocol specification that has been put in place by Anthropic. And this specification aims to define how we can integrate external source of data inside the context of a large language model. So large language model has no native support to access to live data, database, you're running servers, file system, web pages, and so on. So this specification cover those aspects. So it's a new specification. It has been out in November last year. But if you check this link there, the number of implementation of servers with a lot of various external data source is already quite impressive. So it seems that this specification is going to stay, at least for some time. So we will cover three main features of the MCP protocol. Tools. So tools are not new in the context of LLM. The ability to invoke functions is there since some time, but there we have a formalized way to describe and invoke tools. Prompt, a way to reuse predefined questions, if you wish, predefined prompts that can be handy to use in order to interact with your external source of data. And finally, resources that are log file, documentation, that you can use also to enrich the context of the LLM. So first, I'm going to cover tools. So as I said, that's not new. It's a way to invoke tools. And I will speak about MCP servers that provide the tools and MCP client that consume those tools. An AI chatbot, it is a typical MCP client that would consume MCP server. So here we have a workflow of tool discovery and execution. So we have a chatbot. We have some MCP server that are registered in the chatbot. And the first thing is that the tools that are exposed by all those servers are discovered by the chatbot. Then we have the user that ask a question. The chatbot is going to inject all the tools it knows to the question and forward that to the LLM. The LLM is going to plan a strategy of tool invocation or not. It depends on your question and what he finally thinks. And if it thinks that some tools should be called, it will reply back to the chatbot with a set of tools. The chatbot is in charge to invoke the tools, aggregate the reply, send back the reply to the LLM, and finally, the LLM is going to provide the final answer. So all that is expressed in JSON. So I have a short extract of an exchange. We have the question that is sent to the LLM, along with the list of tools. Here we have 2 tools. You can imagine much more. So it's mainly a text with a description, the name of the tool, arguments, parameters, if there are some. So the LLM reply with the tool he wants to see invoked, with arguments, if any. The chatbot is going to invoke the tool and send back an aggregated message containing the original question, the tools that have been called, and all the reply. So you can see that this slide contains the enriched context of the LLM that is going to be processed by the LLM in order to compute the reply. And finally, we have the LLM that answers, saying in this case that everything is okay. Prompt, as I said, it's predefined questions. You can configure those questions with some contextual parameters and send that to the LLM. So we are in the same context. The chatbot, the WildFly MCP servers are going to advertise all the prompts. According to its UI, the chatbot exposes the prompts to the user that select a prompt. And at this point, for the LLM, there is no difference. It receives a question, it plans an answer, perhaps it will invoke tools if it needs to. And finally, MCP resources, that is also part of this specification, defines how to discover and retrieve that piece of information, documentation, logs, and so on, but it doesn't say what the chatbot, what the client is going to use it. So is it going to directly inject those resources inside the context? Is it going to apply some RAG strategy to search and match a subset of information? It's open. Okay, so now let's focus on the usage of MCP in the context of WildFly. So we have this WildFly MCP project in WildFly Extra organization that defines 2 main blocks. The WildFly MCP server, so that is our bridge between the LLM and the WildFly running instance. It's a compliant MCP server that you can register, let's say, in Cloud Desktop or other MCP client. And we have our own MCP client that is an example of what you can build using WildFly. And it's a bit more than an example because it's allow us to interact really with WildFly servers and test our WildFly MCP server. So just one note, everything is moving very fast in this area. So what I am saying today could change in near future. Okay, so our WildFly MCP server is a Quarkus FatJar application. So you have one server that can access multiple WildFly instances, and it exposes what you would expect. JVM configuration, log files, metrics, status. We have even the ambition to invoke WildFly CLI operations, but it's really baby steps, and we are far from having autonomous agents that can monitor and manage your WildFly server. But we are working to understand how to make LLM better understand the CLI operations. It also exposes deployment content. The LLM could have interest in understanding your deployments to troubleshoot, isolate issues. It defines some prompts, and you can build it or run it as a container image. The chatbot, the MCP client, obviously it's configured to use a WildFly MCP server, but you can integrate in it your own developed MCP servers. And Emmanuel in his presentation will show you how you can develop MCP server that you could register in this chatbot to test your prompts and to test your tools. So the chatbot is a WildFly application that leverages the AI feature pack and launching for J integration. One interesting thing is that you can choose which LLM you want to connect to. So it can be Ollama, GrokU, Mistral, some GitHub models. So it's quite a hard job to find out what is the right LLM. And again, you can build and run as a container image. As I said, you can use it to test your own developed tools and prompts. Okay, so we have some channels, we have some demos on YouTube channel. If you want to have a look, they cover some interesting use case. But today, I have a demo. I will cross fingers that our LLM want to answer correctly. We will do simple monitoring. We will check resource consumption, and we'll try to understand the null pointer exception. Okay, so that is the chatbot. You have a text field in order to input your questions, and a set of buttons that we will discover during the demos. So the first kind of questions you want to ask to a WildFly server is, how is running? What is its status? And you can see that the chatbot is prompting me with the invocation of a tool that the LLM has identified to be of interest. So I can accept or deny. I will accept it. And we can see that the WildFly server is running with no boot errors, and the servlet security.war is okay. So I'm going to copy this information. I will need it. So you can provide other kind of question, as you can expect. What are the server and JVM versions? And it is going to, okay, we are running WildFly 35 on JVM 21. Okay, so instead of typing directly, I'm going to use the predefined prompts. So these prompts have been discovered in the WildFly MCP server. We can check for deployment errors, analyze log, I will cover them quickly, analyze the metrics, chart the Prometheus metrics. I will use the WildFly server resource consumption. In is accessing the Prometheus metrics, is accessing to some information, and is computing a reply. The Prometheus metrics is quite a lot of information. It can be some time to process it, but it managed to do it. So we can see that we have memory consumption that is very high, but I did it in purpose by setting an XMX very low, because I wanted to see the kind of recommendation it will provide. And we can see that is advising to increase the XMX. So that's already interesting. So now I am going to look into a deployment. I have the servlet security from the quick start that is running. But when I access it, I have a null pointer exception. So I will ask using the WildFly deployment errors prompt. Oops, I made a mistake. I need to provide the name of the deployment I want to analyze. So I will analyze servlet security. So you want to access the log file. And he understands that he wants to look into the log file. And he wants to have access to the deployment files. He wants to analyze the web.xml, the JBoss web.xml, and from the log, the general status is computing. So what he's telling us, he found a null pointer, and it smelled authentication issue. He found that the security domain, demo security domain, is configured. Okay, so it provides. So the answer can be very different. It depends. Sometimes you need to ask it 1 or 2 times. So I saw the presence of this security domain. I am going to ask it if the demo security domain is present and is well configured in my server configuration. So server configuration can be big. And what can we found is that the demo security domain is not configured in the server configuration. And then that is quite funny. It tries to provide me with some tips, but the knowledge of I'm using Mistral, even if it's a recent LLM, it knows about the legacy security domain and doesn't know well about Elytron. And it tries to mix things up and try to provide me information based on the legacy security systems that we don't support anymore. So,
Jean-Francois, just to mention, it's the time that you mentioned.
Okay, thank you. So I have 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you. So I am going to try to make it to invoke a CLI operation. So I am not going to tell it invoke this CLI operation. I'm going to explain it what I want to do, and we will see if that translates into a CLI operation. So I am saying, could you add a new application security domain named demo security domain to under2? So demo security domain application security domain must have its security domain parameter set to sec domain JDBC, that is a JDBC realm, and then could you reload the server? So I am going to send it this thing. So what can I see? He wants to invoke a CLI operation, so he understands it. It seems that it's correct. I can say we are lucky, because sometimes it provides very strange reply, and he wants to reload. This one, it's 100% of the time. So he invoke, and let's, oh, okay, we have an issue. Oh no, actually you can see that the operation is not correct. I read too fast. The format is not correct. He is using this separator instead of a slash. I will not carry on because I have not enough time, but if you want to invoke operation directly, you can do it from there, and it will bypass the LLM and directly invoke operations. So the last thing is that you can generate reports from the chatbot that will summarize all our interaction and ask the LLM to create a summary. So I will not wait for it because I need to finish and have Emmanuel to carry on. So the limitation, so we are investigating that the LLM you are using is really key, obviously. We need to work on understanding the management model and CLI operations. It's not yet far from being 100% bulletproof, far away, but the lesson learned I wanted to share with you is that if there is too much data in the LLM context, you have a lot of wrong reply because there is too much noise, and good prompt is key. So take time to write good prompt when interacting with your external source of data. So thank you very much, and Emmanuel, we will take questions at the end of the presentation.
Sure, Francois. I'm going to, Emmanuel, I'm just going to try and make sure everything looks aligned on here. So I'll unpin Jean-Francois. I think that has worked. Oh, okay, great. Over to you. Thanks, Emmanuel.
Thank you. Hello and welcome. So I'm going to keep talking about the WildFly AI feature patch and how you can use it in developing Jakarta EE application. So let's see how we meet with Jakarta EE. So I will talk to you about LLM. I guess the only interesting part is that it's something that provides token based on statistics and what you send to it and what it learns from the large corpus. But let's talk about Java and AI. So for most of people, AI is related to Python and also to frameworks such as Launching4j to provide to develop application for. And in the real world, well, we are not alone, and we have the Launching4j framework, which does the same kind of thing that the Longchain does for Python, and provides a way for you to code applications that interact with OpenAI, Anthropic, Ollama, Hugging Face, etc., etc. So we have this framework, but we want to develop in Jakarta EE. For that, we need something to make the glue in between Launching4j and Jakarta EE. And that framework is a small LLM. So small LLM is just a simple framework that will make all the objects that are all the components of Launching4j available to Jakarta EE through CDI. And it will rely on microprofiles APIs if you want. For WildFly, you can bypass them. Microprofile config for configuration, and support microprofile fault tolerance and microprofile open telemetry. And we can see, I will show you all, for example, the fact that we can have open telemetry integrated into our interaction with the LLM, makes it something more enterprise ready than just using Launching4j. For WildFly, we have the WildFly AI feature patch, and currently it supports a lot of chat models. So that's, I would say, inferers, the providers of LLM. You can have different, you can have the same LLM running on different inferers, and they have different APIs and what to manage them. So we have GitHub models, GrokQ, Mistral, Ollama, and all the inferers that support OpenAI API. So OpenAI, of course, obviously. But that's just for interacting with the LLM. What we might need in an enterprise application is the ability to do RAG. So RAG is basically the idea that the LLM doesn't know many maybe everything about your use case. So you are going to provide to it more data in the context so that it can answer properly. And for that, you need to be able to get the data and send it to the LLM. That's basically the idea of RAG. And for that, you need one of the main way to do it is to use, I would say, a semantic search. So that means that we create a semantic vector that is called embedding, and we find the content that match the vector from the query of the user to the content that you have in your embedding store of software. And with that, we get some content and we will provide it to the LLM, and it will try to answer properly with that context. Also, with WildFly feature pack, you can provide tools in that you have some code in your application that provide functions that the LLM can call back. And we also provide a way to connect to MCP or several MCP servers, either through server-sent event or stdio, and then provide those tools to the LLM. So just a quick recap on the Longchain4j components. We have the tools. We have the AI service, which I will show you afterwards, is kind of way to develop with very few lines of code AI application. And we have part that is dedicated to RAG. I won't talk too much about document loaders and splitters because those are a way to split your content, and then with the embedding models, you would compute the embeddings that are related to this content and store them in the embedding store. And of course, we have all the LLM part, which is prompts and prompt templates, some chat memory, language model. So that's obviously to have a natural language interaction with LLM, and image model or multimodal models. So that's models that can take, for example, images as input and returns a natural language answer from the input. So the WildFly AI feature pack provides RAG components, model context, so MCP client components, but it also provides a way to expose your business code as MCP tools. So basically what Jean-François did, you can do it with WildFly itself and expose your existing code to be tools to be invoked by LLM. Well, just some simple code. Here is an AI service. So what we have now is this is just an interface, and we have the register AI service, which is coming from small LLM, which basically inject what we are going to use in our application. And we are going to use, in that case, a simple Olama chat language, and we will use it in a request response mode. We have two classes that provide the tools, so those tools are inside my WAR. And I have a system message, so that's a system prompt, and the user message, the @user message is the user query that is coming to the AI service. And with that, we can have already an AI application. So very simple. If we want to do it with MCP, so that's almost the same code. In our code here, we are using a streaming LLM. So that means that instead of waiting for the LLM to send the final answer, we are taking the answer as it comes. So it comes as a stream of token, and when the stream is closed, is finished, then we have the final response. That enables us to send back the response as a stream to the user and makes the answer more interactive. But that's basically it. And the difference here is that the tools, instead of being a list of classes, is just a name. So it's something that will be provided through CDI and provide a tool provider that's an aggregation of MCP clients. So here in this MCP tool provider, we can have a list of clients connecting to different MCP servers and aggregating all the tools into a single list of tools for the LLM to consume. And if you want to provide your own MCP server, so that's some sample code you can provide in WildFly using the WildFly AI feature patch. And here, in that case, we are providing a prompt, a tool, and a resource. So that's the three elements of the MCP server. For the prompt, as you can see, well, it's quite basic. We are returning just a text, but it could be a template and text parameters. For the tool, so this is where the developer has to write some documentation, because the description that is defined here is what is going to be used by the LLM to understand how the tool is going to be used. So in that example, this is a tool that connects to some REST API from government state service, and it will try to get the weather alerts for a state, for a US state. And as you can see, we provide a name and a description, and the arguments are defined so that the LLM knows what it tries to pass. And I won't talk about the resource, but in that example, I was trying to just send back the servlet from WildFly. And this is how it is seen in the WildFly configuration. So we have the subsystem. In our case, we have a streaming Mistral a chat model. So the fact it is streaming is just defined by an attribute that says, okay, this model is streaming or not. Here we are able to do some racks. So we have an embedding store, an embedding model. Embedding model, embedding store, and content retriever that aggregates both for the application to get the content from the embedding store with using the proper embedding model. And here we have the MCP part. So we have an MCP2 provider that is called MCP, and as a list of MCP client, which is a single element list in this case. And this is MCP client, and we define here in the regular WildFly way with a socket binding, so not boot socket binding, how it connects to MCP server. So time for some demos. Okay, so first I'm going to show you what it means that we have OpenTelemetry integration, or how it means that it makes our AI application enterprise. So I'm going to build my application here with the OpenTelemetry profile. So all the AI feature packs layers are Grow enabled. That means that WildFly Grow can scan your source code and detect what you are using, and trim down the server to only the features and only the layers that you need when provisioning. So in our case, it detects that I'm using JAX because I'm doing some REST endpoint. And well, there's a right example, so it has a content retriever. And I'm using Olama chat model, so request response, and also a streaming chat model. And OpenTelemetry, of course, because I'm forcing that to show you. What I need to do is start an OpenTelemetry connector. So here I'm starting an OpenTelemetry connector, and I'm starting my server. And let's connect to it. So for those, with the proper name, it should work. Okay, so for those who knows me, I've been working mostly on the messaging part. So here is the question I'm going to ask. So how do you connect to a remote? How do you connect how do you configure, sorry, a connection factory to a remote Artemis server. And it takes a bit while because this is a request and response mode. And it's connecting to my Olama, so well, my laptop is not a cloud system, but it works here, and we got here the answer. And what I wanted to show to you is that let me see here. Yeah, because the output of the collector is written in text file, which is just appeared here. And if you look here, so we have the first span from the REST call, and then we have the second span here, and this is about the interaction with the LLM. So you see that we have been using the Llama 3.2 3 billion parameters model with a temperature of 0.9, and we have sent 374 tokens and received 433 tokens. And in the same way here, I think it's okay. It's here. We have the metrics that are defined here. Oh, sorry. Here they are. So we have the metrics. So in your collector, you are getting all the interaction with the LLM. So that's very important because, of course, the cost of the LLM usage is based in most cases on the number of tokens. And just to show you some code, sorry, this is the RAG chatbot. So it's using the old mode, but we can also use it in a more interactive way. And I'm just going to show you. So this is a simple chatbot that will use SSE to send back the answer to the user. So let me show you how it does. So there is no RAG here, just make it what is the best sci-fi movie. And you can see it's the same LLM, it's the same Olama, but you can see the interaction is more direct, and from a user experience point of view, it's better. So this is what I wanted to show to you about OpenTelemetry and the AI feature pack. What I want to show you now is MCP. So let's start with building. So I have an MCP server. So that's, again, a WildFly project with Glow. And here Glow has detected that we are going to use MCP because we have the annotation that I just showed you before. So here we have on MCP server, and I can start it here. Okay. And now we have our application, our chatbot application. So I'm going to build it. Again, we have Go, and Go is scanning here, and it says that, oh, you are using an MCP client. So it detects that you are going to use an MCP client, and it provides all that is required in your application. Sorry, in your provisioned server to connect to an MCP server. All right. So I'm going to start it with an offset of port because I don't want to have a conflict on the port. There we are. Okay. Now let's see the booking service. So that's my chatbot. So hello. How can you help me? And so this chatbot is using RAG and is using my MCP server. So I can, what is the list of, so it's a car rental company, car that you are renting. So this is coming from documents that are embedded. So we have embeddings. And I can say, hello, my name is James Bond. Can you show me my bookings? Oh, so this is so this is what is happening with LLM. Let's try again. See if it's, and now it works again. So that's of course the fact that so it asks the booking, and the bookings are defined in the MCP server. And what I can do now is let me open a new here, and on the same way I can ask Emilio Largo. I can use the same tools on a different application just to see if there is a fraud happening. And it says no, there is no fraud, so we're all clear. So what I'm going to do now is show you the code. Yeah, give me a sec. Open recent, and I have my car booking application. So this is the car booking MCP, and this is the part that should be business. So I don't do a real business code with GPA and a data source and connecting to the database. So this is mock with a map. But you can see here the tool. Those are the MCP annotations. So I'm using, you want to get some details on the booking, then you need the booking ID, which and the format of it, the name of the customer and the surname of the customer. And in the same way, I could get all booking IDs for customer given his name and surname. So that's what was invoked when I asked the booking being James Bond. And right, yes, that's it. And you have all those tools that you can here. And here we have a bigger tool that try to detect fraud from customer. Sorry, that's not the tool. That's the prompt. Sorry, that you can use in your MCP to interact with. And then it will, like Jean-François showed, invoke all the queries to get the bookings for customer and see if there is a fraud or not. And this is the AI service. So this is what we have been invoking. So this is system message and the question that is used. And that's just the fact that we want to expose it as a REST application. And here we have we are exposing. This is a part that does that sends the message to the SSE to the browser. And yeah, that's it. What I wanted to show to you now is that we can do things in a very, very creative way. And one of the things that we are working currently on is to be able to expose tools that are not in Java. So for that, I have this simple example that is called MCP Chicory. And in that case, I'm building a REST tool. So it's a very simple tool. And I'm just using Chicory to expose this tool built as a WebAssembly. And what I'm going to show you now is how it works. So I'm going to shut down my servers. And here it is. So you can see it's even compiling the Rust. And here is Glow coming in. sorry. I started, and yeah, let's start. So this is a tool provided by the MCP specification. So yeah, if I go, sorry, yeah, I'm opening a new tab, SSC, and I'm connecting 8080 connect. And if I go to the tools, and here I have a grid, and say WildFly community. And so this has invoked the MCP tool, which has invoked the Rust code and has returned the result back to us. So even if you have tools that are not in Java, you can also use the WildFly MCP, the WildFly AI feature pack to expose your tools as MCP tools. And I guess that's mostly it for the demos. So what's next? I'm trying to make this MCP WASM integration cleaner so that you can define your tools in WildFly configuration. I'm trying to add mod providers. Also, while small LLM provides fault tolerance integration, I need to add that into WildFly AI feature patch. We are trying to work on making a GraphRag a reality. So that means currently there is an experimental support for Neo4j content retriever that creates a Cypher query based on the user input and query the Neo4j database to get the content and then send all that to the LLM. And we tried also to follow the MCP specification changes, because as Jean-François said, those changes are, everything changes every day. And so to provide you with a full WildFly solution, and you don't have to move your code to another MCP stack. And in conclusion, you can use WildFly Management API to manage your configuration to interact with LLM, just like you usually do. We have layers to trim down the provisioning, and we are using Glow, WildFly Glow for that also. Everything is CDI enabled. That means that you can inject everything through CDI using @inject @name or using our, I would say, higher level annotations. We support AI service, Longchain4j AI service. And now we provide a way for you to have an MCP server to exposing your business code and to integrate it with MCP client support. Just a list of resources that you might find helpful with what Jean-François and myself have presented. So Longchain4j, MCP, the WildFly MCP project from that Jean-François just demoed, and also the various blog entries that we wrote or register on the WildFly channel, demonstrating how you can take advantage of the WildFly AI feature pack. And if you have any questions, then I or Jean-François can answer them.
Thanks, Emmanuel, and thank you for presenting that and running the demo, and thank you too to Jean-François as well. I haven't seen any questions in the YouTube chat or the Zulip thread, so I'm sure if well, I hope if anyone has any further questions, they can connect with you in Zulip and Jean-François as well after the call. But thank you very much for presenting that. I'm going to just show the the feedback slide as well. And should be coming through now. Yeah, great. And yeah, thanks again. So I'm gonna drop your video stream off of the screen. But yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's great. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so just remains then basically to thank our presenters and our community for joining us today, and for the organizers and co-organizers of the event today. I hope that everyone who was able to join got a lot out of the call and the stream, and yeah, there's feedback forms that have been shared throughout, Zulip threads, and another link to the overall sessions, overall event feedback forms now in the YouTube live chat. Please visit us at our project website for more information on WildFly. We look forward to working with you in the community, either as a user or as a contributor of developer to WildFly. Thanks again. I'm going to end the stream now, but thank you, and hope to see you on a future event. Thank you. Goodbye.